Hello, and welcome everyone to this third panel of Nextv series Caribbean 2021. My name is Juan Pablo Conti, and I am the Content and Audience Development Manager for the Americas at Dataxis. Android TV, this is what we are going to be discussing on this panel, is really, as I'm sure you all can see, gaining traction across the world as the software platform of choice for many pay TV operators looking to bring the next generation of video services to their subscribers. Now, what exactly is it? Some of you attending one of our previous panels, inevitably the topic of Android TV came up, and we said we're going to have a specific panel to look at it. So what is it? What advantages and disadvantages does it have? How well does it handle super aggregation of OTT services? To find out, we have brought together an expert panel with a lot of experience building, deploying, and running pay TV and OTT platforms. So let me introduce them. First of all, we're waiting for our first speaker. I'll introduce him because I'm sure he will be joining us once we start the conversation. He is Mark Jensen, the Executive Director of Video Product Management and Strategy of ATM International. We're going to wait again for Mark to join us once we start the conversation. Nick Wilson is the Head of Customer Success at TiVo. TiVo, as probably a lot of you know, is an Xperi company. And Stephen Hodge. Stephen is the CEO of Toon Goggles. Stephen, let's start with you. Can you introduce us and describe Toon Goggles to our audience here today? When was this OTT service launched, and what type of content does it offer, and sort of what differentiates it from other, and I'm going to spoil it here, what type of content you're offering, other children's OTT? That's really your niche OTT market. Where is it available, in what languages, how do you monetize it? Let us all understand what Toon Goggles is and how it works.
Excellent. So Toon Goggles is an OTT platform. As you said, it's targeted towards children, but certainly adults that enjoy parent-friendly kids content can enjoy it as well. We launched it back in, well, it was incepted in 2010. We launched it in 2011, and we started to dive into OTT around 2012, launching tablet applications as well as quickly penetrating the smart TV market. So at this point, Toon Goggles is one of the most widely distributed children's OTT platforms, but really one of the most widely distributed OTT platforms in general, especially in the AVOD space. We have usage in over 196 territories. We work very closely with pretty much every major consumer electronics company that you can think of, from your Samsungs to your Xiaomis to Hisense and TCL and Huawei and various others, Oppo and pretty much all the major smart TV and consumer electronics device manufacturers. Right now we have content available in many languages, and recently we've introduced fast channels to our application. So in total, we support over 20 different live linear channels within the application, all free to use. For Latin America, we have a Toon Goggles in Espanol channel. For Brazil, we have a Toon Goggles Brazil in Brazilian Portuguese. We are launching very soon with a Russian language channel, and we're exploring other language channels as well. But our service has a number of different channels that cater to different niche categories within kids content. Everything from educational content to branded channels from brands like Angry Birds and Num from the popular Cut the Rope series, and also we actually launched the Guinness World Records Kids channel on our platform, and we're continuously looking to bring new channels to the platform and really create that virtual MVPD experience for this niche genre, and we're the first to explore that space. As far as monetization, we monetize in various ways. I mean, our chief source of revenue is coming from AVOD, and we also have an in-house ad sales team working on both programmatic and direct advertising relationships. But we also support subscription video on demand, which is typically used to enhance the feature set of the application, turning off ads on VOD content, as well as allowing for a user to save content for offline viewing. And then we also support transactional VOD, where from time to time we have either live events or actually feature films that are a part of a pay-per-view or just a rental type of an experience within the service. But that's pretty much been the chief mode of business at this point.
Okay, a very comprehensive introduction. Thanks for that. Mark, welcome to the discussion. You've already been introduced. We knew that you were coming in, so it was just a question of a few seconds. Mark, for really, I think over 30 years, ATM International has been providing communication services to rural markets in North America and in a number of Caribbean nations. Unlike other international Caribbean operators, and we had on the opening panel some of those operators, Flow, Digicel, DirecTV, and you could include Claro in this group. You are unique in the sense that you're operating with different brands in each of the markets that you serve. So let's start by, if you can remind us which specific Caribbean nations you're operating in, under which brands in each case, and what triple or quadruple play services are you offering, and what distribution technologies, HFC, fiber, or wireless, are you using?
Yeah, no, thank you. So we operate in Bermuda under the FiberWire nomenclature. In Bermuda, we have both wireless and fixed. And within fixed, that is both the twisted copper, fiber to the home, and HFC.
Okay.
So it's all the above, which makes for an interesting situation on how to provide services to subscribers, right? And you have to kind of provide all the above today, right? It's pretty hard. I think a lot of panelists talked about how we all know that having a fiber strand of the home is the most reliable and efficient way to do it, but the cost isn't as efficient, right? So we all have to come up with different mechanisms for getting services down to the subscriber. So that's in Bermuda. In Grand Cayman, it's under the moniker Logic, and we have pretty much fiber to the home in Logic, and we have wireless services also. Mm-hmm. In the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas and St. Croix, that's under the Via name, and that has both fixed and wireless also, fiber to the home, along with HFC, along with some twisted copper still, and then also the wireless scenarios, both in 4G and in Wi-Fi, actually. Mm-hmm. And then outside the Caribbean is GTT, which is the English-speaking country of Guyana, actually.
Yep. Which is sometimes always considered part of the Caribbean, right?
Yeah. But you're right, it is rural markets. They are, they're unique, but the same across the board. One thing that is not much different than any other place in the world is it used to be pay TV was a significant margin product and driving a good amount of revenue. Now we're all focused on how we can achieve broadband first, and pay TV is really a value-added service, right?
Mm-hmm. So also part of what's already been discussed today. Now, but I have to say, when you look at how your pay TV services in these markets look like, they are already including some pretty advanced digital functionality in terms of TV everywhere access, support for TV apps, compatibility with multiple devices. How would you describe the process that allowed you to launch such advanced video services in a region like the Caribbean?
Yeah, 4 years ago, I put together a strategy to collapse what is, what was basically almost, on average, we had about 3 to 4 different TV systems per market, all serving the various types of access networks we just discussed. As you can imagine, that's very cost prohibitive, very complicated. You have, a lot of problems in your product and branding and how you can move that forward. So we collapsed all of those into a distributed cloud environment in order to send services down via both IP and QAM using the same type of sources, the same type of capability, with a single set of application sets that serve all of the ecosystems of those access networks. So yeah, we have applications for your browsers on Mac and PC. We have iOS, we have Android, we have smart TVs, we have Fire TVs, we have Android TV, and we have a Linux set-top box that was built off proprietary technology, but it's a single device that actually allows that device to be deployed in any network in any form. So we don't have more than one device type actually that we can deploy.
Okay.
That's become very powerful for us. So it creates an opportunity to bring the legacy subscriber along that's used to having just a set of channels, along with having the ability for that same device to flick the switch as soon as they have a broadband first household and connect interactivity and make that device what we call a connected TV device.
Okay. Nick, let's start getting into the Android discussion. Why is it attracting so much interest among pay TV operators these days? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things, and if you look at the different, the different panelists here, we all come from different parts of the industry that are all trying to get to the same eyeballs. And the benefit to Android TV is it provides a level playing field for people to consume pay TV content, to consume OTT content, and to be able to get those OTT apps in front of consumers without having to spend a bunch of development or put a bunch of development on the OTT providers to get to that platform. I'm sure Stephen would tell you that there's a lot of cost for them in supporting, what you probably support a dozen different platforms today where people can consume the content. And if every pay TV provider wanted to build their own Linux branded set-top box with their own proprietary technology, that number would explode. And so the benefit to Android TV is you get to leverage some of the work that Google's done. You get access to the Play Store. You get access to the paid content, movies and music. And there's some underlying hooks in there that help you in getting IP content quick to the box and getting DVB content quick to the box. And with the operator tier program, they allow you to customize it and make it look and feel still like an Android set-top box. And I think to the point that Mark made earlier about the fact that you see margins and revenue shrinking in pay TV, having the ability to bundle all that content and do unified discovery across it to help users find content, not just in your pay TV service, but across the different services they subscribe to, is a great mechanism to increase the value add that you're bringing to subscribers and have them second guess whether what you don't want is them just shopping video based on price, or just shopping, even worse, just shopping broadband based on price, right? So what are the value added services that you can add that are sticky on top of video? And we think that what Android TV provides you is that foundation to make one of those things a great user experience, unified search and discovery, and access to all the content that they want to watch, whether it's provided by you or not.
Okay. You mentioned quickly the operator tier option. We know there's that option and there's the Android open source project. Can you help us understand what the differences are? I think that's still not clear to everyone, and it would be helpful. And why would an operator go for one or for the other?
Yeah, and I actually think it's probably worth it to think about it in maybe in 3 tiers, right? So you have, on one side, you have the operator tier program with custom launcher, where you can really turn what you have into a set-top box that is your own, right? It boots up with your brand and logo. You control the home screen, and there's a lot more control, and that's one. I think there's then just standard Android TV, where you have a box that runs Android TV. There are some things that Google will allow you to do on an operator distributed box. You can pin your app to the home screen. There are some other little things, not as much as operator tier, but you still get the Google Play Store. You still get all the Google apps, Google Video or Google Movies, Google Music, YouTube on there. And then there's the third column, which is Android open source, which is essentially taking the code that Android TV is built on, deploying it on your own boxes, not going through Google certification, which means you don't get the Google apps, the Google ecosystem provided there, but you're able to change the underlying operating system more and build something like what Fire TV is, right? So all the Fire TV devices are running Android open source. That's the underlying foundation of that. And so that's kind of a quick overview. I'm happy to talk more about any of those options, but
no, that's a good overview. Thanks for that. Stephen, you mentioned how widely distributed you are, using practically, I think you said, every single consumer electronic device out there. But what is it really? What's the importance of extending the reach of an OTT service through integration with, again, connected TVs, mobile apps, I would say streaming media players in general? And I would like to hear specifically for you about the Android TV platform. What's the importance of this platform for an OTT services that it's looking clearly to reach as many people as possible through an OTT distribution, and Android TV apparently is a good channel for that, right?
Well, I mean, Android TV, just to begin with, is probably one of the fastest growing tvOS platforms. I mean, not to say tvOS, but television operating system platforms right now in general. They're massively taking over the set-top box market, and many smart TVs are adopting that as an alternative to their custom Linux development or their Roku partnerships. Many platforms are actually switching over and using Android TV. And I think to piggyback on what Nick was saying, it really just comes down to discoverability and integrating with these devices and with these companies directly allows for a closer connection to the end consumer, as opposed to simply being in the App Store and being amongst hundreds of thousands of applications. Being able to integrate directly with the operators and the TV manufacturers allows for the application to be discovered far more easily as a preloaded option on the device, or a part of their metadata search that allows for the content to be discovered and then the application to be launched. So it's all very, very important with Android, really being one of those platforms that's at the top in terms of its reach from a global standpoint. Companies from the U.S. to India to Russia, Latin America, and all over Europe and Africa are really heavily adopting Android TV for their platforms, for both cable operators, set-top boxes, as well as within the smart TV market. So it's been really critical to support Android TV, and also to mention what Nick said. Even amongst those 12 plus platforms, there's also a lot of just device fragmentation around that as well. So each one of these different Android set-top boxes or TV devices, they have different different hardware components and different different unique environments that you have to test for in order. So the one application doesn't fit all, but the work is that at least you have a general framework to begin with, which is a lot easier to work with than if it was a completely new programming language that you had to work with for every device that you were looking to work with. But Android is definitely one of the most dominant. We look at it in our stats. It's rapidly growing in terms of the amount of users that are operating our services on those platforms, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon.
Okay, very very interesting. Mark, Stephen is providing a very interesting perspective from an OTT services that is being super aggregated. In your case, you can provide us the view from the operator, right? So what advantages and also disadvantages do you see in Android TV for pay TV operators that are looking to expand their streaming content offerings? Because at the end of the day, it's exploding, but somehow you're incorporating Google into your ecosystem, right? So is, for example, loss of control over what your subscribers will access a risk or a necessity these days? How do you see it?
Well, it's definitely a necessity. I mean, it's become clear to us all that there's two middleware. It's called iOS and Android, right? And it's clear that we're in an app world. And so the cell phones, and wireless industry went that direction, and we have to follow, right? There's a lot of other options there that, have existed in the world and are still around today, but it seems pretty clear that if you want to participate in an ecosystem with choice, and if you want to onboard apps and you want to be in that potential revenue stream, you have to support iOS and you have to support Android. And Android, as we've talked about, is Android TV and Fire TV. Well, you've just hit 70% of the market right across the globe. Nothing else compares to that. So that's kind of why we're focused on it too. And then the second part is when it comes to advertising revenue, it's clear that Android TV has an opportunity to leverage in that ecosystem of impressions and advertising, because the traditional video world advertising is slowly disappearing, right? And there's a way to leverage that. Now, Android TV has a lot of negatives. Number one, it does not save you development costs. I can do it cheaper on Linux than I can on certifying Google devices and moving forward. It's not a cost-saving measure. It is an access opportunity, access to applications. We have no choice. All the big providers are always providing their apps on Android TV. That's what makes it easy. We have Linux boxes that are cheaper, that we can develop fast. They have HTML browsers. They've had them for 10 years. Over the past 5 years, they're faster than most computers. It's fine. We can do that. But it's about access to apps. That's the key. The other flaw that we find in Android TV is the fact that Google will allow you to use it for 3 years. After 3 years, we don't know what's going to happen. There's no support. Support for your Android TV operator to your device runs out in 3 years. There's no commitment for that device to have an upgrade to be supported by Google after that time frame. It may work after 3 years, but they will not commit to it working after 3 years. That is a huge risk. That's the elephant under the table that no one mentions.
I think you're right. It's the first time I hear that.
That's right.
Big question mark. Okay.
It is absolutely the case. You have to certify your device. You have to go back through recertification potentially every year. So there's not a cost savings for that. After 3 years, they're not certain that the Android TV operator tier or the Android TV that they're rolling out, whatever number version it is, will support the hardware you have. After 3 years, they don't guarantee it. So now you've changed the model. It used to be we could deploy 5 or 6 years worth of a set top or a connected TV device. Now we have to calculate that we may have to throw it away after 3 years. That's not very good.
We're going to keep an eye on. Presumably, it hasn't been 3 years since the first deployments have been there.
There are some Android
okay.
TV operator tier devices that are older than 3 years, and they do still work. But the question will remain when applications get updated and new Android TV operator tier versions change, will they still run on that device? If they don't run, the operator doesn't get to keep it. They are now left in an island of not being compatible.
Well, let's hope that that's not the case, but it's a very interesting new item there that you're introducing into the discussion. Absolutely. Nick, what are the most important features that an operator deploying Android TV should implement on their set-top boxes?
Yeah, so take advantage of all the apps on there. I'm just kidding, but I think that there are a bunch of things, right? And it depends the route that you're going. I'll say I'm a little surprised to hear from Mark that they haven't found cost savings in development between the two platforms. I'll say for us having built our own Linux middleware at TiVo going back years, and then compared to what it takes us to develop similar features on Android TV now, we get a lot more efficiency in developing on Android TV. It's easier to find Android developers. There are some hooks built in there around DRM compatibility, some of the changes that they're making in ExoPlayer on an ongoing basis that provide some advantage and cost savings. But we all have different experiences with different platforms. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared what we've seen there too. I think as far as what you want to have a great platform, I think it's important to take advantage of the apps, right? I've talked about OTT aggregation or super aggregation or unified discovery. All these things are kind of relatively the same. For us, that's one of the big ones, right? How do you take advantage of all the apps that are available in that ecosystem and then blend them in with the content that you have in a seamless way? And how do you recommend good content along with it, right? And so I think there's three pieces to that. One is app availability. Android TV brings that. Two is having access to the catalogs for those other OTT providers to know what content they have available so that you can recommend on that with the content that you're providing as an operator, or leveraging some of the stuff that Google has built in, but that takes away some of the control. And then three, having a great recommendation system that can leverage what you know about that consumer and be able to recommend across the content for us. So for us, that's been one of the big ones. I think on top of that, you want to have, as a pay TV provider, the great pay TV services, right? So what can you do to make your content available everywhere? That's not an Android problem, but having apps available on different platforms, providing start over and catch up functionality and DVR functionality. Again, these aren't necessarily Android TV specific features, but things that continue to build on top of the experience. And so how do you bring all this content together, bring as much content as you can, and then highlight to the user the value that you're bringing to them? I think one of the other things that we're starting to do that's great too is building some of the operator controls around broadband, managing your broadband subscription, managing your video subscription, checking your data usage into the box, right? So how can you take that from just being a TV viewing device and make it kind of the hub of the home, right? It's in the living room already. That tends to be the place that people spend a lot of their time. It tends to be the hub of the home. How do you take advantage of that and bring more and more of the other services that you offer as a pay TV provider into that device?
Okay. Stephen, once an OTT such as Toon Google's is integrated as an app into a platform such as Android TV, I think Mark was mentioning the importance that the Android OTT ecosystem brings in terms of new addressable advertising opportunities. So I'm wondering, once you're integrated, is there a way, or it should be a way, for you to access any usage data? How does this work for an OTT in terms of the possible access to the data that could be useful to you?
Well, the data that you're able to access is not so much reliant on it being Android or not. I mean, that the data is collected app side. for our platform in particular, for the Toon Goggles platform, we're very limited on the data that we're able to collect. So, we collect device type, we can collect the region, but we can't collect personally identifiable information. However, across other types of applications that we do power, we're able to collect, information based on individual usage, depending on the level of information that is given by an individual user. We're able to determine things like gender, things like obviously we can narrow in on their IP address, and we can figure out just really a ton of addressable advertising. I mean, we were able to really determine a lot of information based on what they have connected to their devices, what they're watching, how long they're watching it for, and also what types of things people in that in that neighborhood or region are gravitating towards from a purchasing standpoint. But again, on the Toon Goggles side, that level of information is very, very limited. I mean, we have to abide by COPA and KRU guidelines. So our data collection is very limited. So we're only able to really collect information that is basic to the region, device type, types of shows that are being watched, and we're serving against that. But there's a lot of information that's able to be collected from applications that don't have to abide by that. But it's not really dependent on the Android side. Like I said, it is really based on the analytics engine that you have embedded within the applications.
Okay, clear. Mark, and I will put the same question then to Nick. Are hybrid set-top boxes the sort of most sensible strategy for operators with legacy pay TV services? Because I think it's clear with operators that are launching services for the first time that Android might be the way it's straight ahead. But what happens with legacy pay TV services? Is a hybrid set-top box approach the most sensible way to go?
In the markets of the Caribbean, as many people are aware, they don't have the same broadband connectivity. Also, houses are built a little differently. So it's really hard to have a secure, reliable Wi-Fi service or connected. So we've actually been very challenged in taking the subscriber from what we call a basic TV service, right? Where they have, channel tiers that they watch, to a connected TV service where it's, reliably interactive, right? The user is used to connecting their TV or their streaming box and having it work, or dealing with their problems inside the house because they have no one they can call, right? I mean, you don't call Netflix and ask for Wi-Fi help. But when they move to our service, we have to make sure that it works. And the expectation is it's as reliable as a traditional pay TV service. And we know that it actually is not quite that case. It's very close. We've done a lot of great technology advancements in order to achieve that. We are focused on an Android TV operator tier set-top that is a hybrid that allows us to still deliver QAM channels. The first operator in the world to do that was Swisscom. They're the ones who wrote with Google the extensions for QAM delivery and hybrid. And, from that point, we have those available as was discussed, and they have the DRM hooks in order to make it work. And it does work well, and we want to stay focused on that. But it does mean that when a user doesn't have the IP connection as reliable or as low latency as possible, they will experience some hiccups of interactive services. And that can be challenging for people, right? They're not used to that. And so there's a big set of the marketplace who still wants traditional service. They still use cell phones, they still use interactive things. It's just a different expectation that they may have for the service. And we're trying hard to ensure that we offer broadband for our services for managed Wi-Fi to be reliable and efficient for the subscriber inside the house and outside the house.
Okay, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of what Mark said is true, right? It depends a lot on the market and the homes passed that you're targeting. I think it also depends on the scale of the market, right? A lot of the cost savings and the improvements in broadband that you get for going to IPTV, you realize once you have a whole channel cut over, right? Or all of your channels cut over. And so, but the flip side is the cost of the set-top boxes with the tuner in them is significantly higher. And so it's one of the things that we talk to with customers as they're weighing what to do is what is their strategy around it? Are they going to build out all their IP infrastructure to start? Because if you have all your channels on IP and you have the bandwidth to do this along some plan, then it makes sense to do a kind of cap and grow where you go IP only. If the plan is to cut big swaths of the network over at one time, certain channels, certain bundles, you want to take all your long tail, we have operators in the US who've taken all their long tail channels off of QAM and put them on IP. In that case, you have to have hybrid boxes, but you have to have them in every home. And so I think it's important for operators as they're making that decision to sit down to look at what's the capital budget that they have to do this? What's the timeline that they're looking? Is their goal trying to get advanced services and make the content available outside the home and on non-managed set-top box devices? What is the network capability of the areas that they're accessing? All these things play into it. And so I'll tell you, for our new customers, the majority of them have gone all IP. The product that we work on with Liberty Latin America is all IP today. A number of the new rollouts we're doing in the States are all IP. We have a couple of other parts of the Latin America and the Caribbean where we're getting ready to roll out, and those will be all IP also. So I think there's pros and cons to both. There's ways to make either work, and it just really depends on the end goals for the operator.
Okay. And perhaps the oldest discussion in all of our events, Nextv events, is, and I think, Mark, you already mentioned it, many of the smart TV vendors are also adopting Android TV as their operating system. What makes you wonder, will there come a time when the set-top box itself will become an obsolete device? What's your take on that at the moment? I'll put the same question to all three of you. I'll start with Mark.
Yeah, I think smart TVs have come a long way, right? And they work really well, and people appreciate them because they turn the TV on, they get their TV or their apps. A streaming device built on Android TV will have far better processing power and memory and performance than most smart TVs will have. And to roll out an Android TV operator tier, we're actually giving the user something that makes it really easy to use, because it's a single button to turn it on and get TV immediately. They don't have to go around and search. They don't have to press 3 more buttons to get to the TV they want. They go into an ecosystem that has all their services. That's really important. The smart TVs aren't doing that still. They're still trying to figure out how they can have their own type of channel services in play that doesn't seem to quite work and doesn't resonate with subscribers. So I don't think smart TVs will actually be successful continuing forward. I still think people appreciate a connected TV streaming device connected to their main watching TV. I think for all the other rooms in the house, yes. But when it comes to the living room TV or the major TV they watch, I still think they will want the best performance, the best streaming, the easiest to use, because the family's impatient.
Steve, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I'm a bit more radical because I disagree a bit with Mark there. From where I stand, I'm looking very closely at Roku, at Samsung, and at Vizio, and I'm looking at where they're making their money right now, where traditionally the margins on the manufacturing of TVs have been small, and what these companies have been really focused on as of recent is beefing up their ad sales teams. Vizio going public, Samsung really putting on a massive campaign around Samsung ads, and I think that following the dollars is going to lead to them putting more money into making sure that their TVs are powerful enough and up to par with the set-top boxes, especially in the Android space. And I think that other companies like your Comcast and other that have made significant investments in companies like Zumo and Metrological, which also powers a number of set-top boxes. CEO of Comcast has already made it clear that one of his ambitions is to release a smart TV. So I think that I wouldn't take it off the table. I think that it's a possibility. I think that smart TVs will directly look to take on cable operators, and I think that people in their homes are largely more concerned with vanity than they are the idea of having a set-top box or a dongle or something else connected to their TV. I think that looking at how Samsung TV Plus has deployed their virtual MVPD, I think that they've made it a very simple user experience where you power on your TV, it launches directly into the Samsung TV Plus application. Doesn't matter what set-top box is plugged into the TV, it launches directly into their experience. And then the home screen from that point allows for you to launch other services. And obviously you have competitive virtual MVPDs like your Hulus and YouTube TVs. And I think that as these companies continue to grow and scale and put significant investment into their services, they're going to look to find more ways to drive more users to their devices. And that includes partnerships with your Walmarts and your Best Buys and your Targets, et cetera, to sell TVs where their service is not only preloaded, but is their TV. And I see that being something that's going to be, I see that as something that has the possibility of being, a clear part of the future. And at least from where I stand, doesn't matter to me either way, because I'm just looking to supply content, services, and channels to those devices. So that's not my fight to be in. But just looking at things from where I stand, and I've obviously having some of the conversations that I've been having with a number of companies, I do see that happening. Whether it catches fire, I don't know, but I do feel very significantly that over the next few years, we're going to see companies, we're going to see giants fall. We're going to see new companies enter spaces that weren't traditionally thought of as being competitors to cable operators. And it'll be interesting to see. We've been looking very closely at everything from 5G technologies to Starlink. I think it's going to be very interesting when the globe is populated with high-speed broadband to see what new opportunities arise in terms of how content is being consumed, and also how consumer electronics companies themselves pivot their business models now that they're making more money on ad sales. If they look to really, completely shift their models and become direct competitors to traditional cable operators. Just an opinion.
Great to have contrasting views. We love whenever that happens. And I have so many other questions, and we're running out of time. And Nick, I want to end with a question to you, because I would like to know specifically, what would you recommend to a Caribbean ISP, say that is deploying GPON fiber network and is considering using Android TV or RDK, it could be, to complement its broadband offer with advanced streaming video services. That's a situation that's happening throughout Latin America and in the Caribbean as well. What would be the key recommendation in those cases?
Can I answer with Call TiVo? But no,
You can,
in all
there are
seriousness,
no guarantees, but
I
you
think,
can.
yeah, I think in that situation that looking at Android TV is a great option, right? If you're deploying GPON, you have fiber to the home, you'll be able to provide an all IP service. I think that's a great path to go. There are a number of great providers in the space. I think we're one of them, but Android TV, I think, is a great path. And just one last thing on the previous question you asked, the one view I have is, how many people have a TV in their home that's more than 10 years old? And when you think back to what Mark said about Google trying to support versions of devices for 3 years or 5 years, it's a lot easier to swap out a $40 dongle than it is a $1,500 TV that's mounted to your wall.
Okay, that's a good view to end the debate. I have to be honest, I had so many more questions for you that we will have to invite you to one of our next events to continue the discussion. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for this panel. Thank you very, very much to our expert speakers for really helping us understand what all the Android TV FAS is about and its implications, particularly in the Caribbean. Thank you to everyone in our audience, wherever you're joining us from today, for watching and participating. We will take a short break before our next and final already session of the day. Don't miss it. We're going to have a panel on over-the-air broadcasters going OTT. Please note that this session starts 10 minutes past noontime Miami. So it's not 12 o'clock Miami, but it's 10 past 12 o'clock. See you then. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.